I would like to read to you guys a few words regarding gravitation. Now, I remember being taught when I was a boy that the Earth was a great ball revolving at a very rapid rate around the sun, and when I expressed to my teacher my fears that the water of the oceans would tumble off, I was told that they were prevented from doing so by Newton's great law of gravitation, which kept everything in its proper place. And I presume that my countenance must have shown some signs of incredulity, for my teacher immediately added, "I can show you a direct proof of this. A man can whirl around his head a pail filled with water without it being spilt, and so like in manner can the oceans be carried round the sun without losing a drop." As this illustration was evidently intended to settle the matter, I then said no more upon the subject. But had such been proposed to me afterwards as an adult, I would have answered somewhat as follows. "Well, sir, I beg to say that the illustration you have given of a man whirling a pail of water round his head and the oceans revolving round the sun does not in any degree confirm your argument, because the water, in two of the cases, is placed under entirely different circumstances. But to be of any value, the conditions in each case must be the same, which here they are not. The pail is a hollow vessel which holds the water inside it, whereas according to the teachings of the earth, being a ball with a continuous curvature outside, which in agreement with the laws of nature could not retain any water. Besides, as the scriptures plainly tell us, the water is not contained in the earth, but the earth in water. Again, the man who whirls the pail around his head takes very good care to hold it straight in an even circuit, for if he did not, the water would immediately be spilt. But you teach us that the earth goes upside down and downside up, so that the people in Australia, being the other side of the so-called globe, have their feet exactly opposite to ours, for which they are named antipodes. But we are not like flies, which by the peculiar conformation of their feet can crawl on a ball, but we are human beings, guys, who require a plain surface on which to walk. And how could we be fastened to the earth, whirling and spinning, according to your theory, around the sun at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, or the rate of 18 miles per second? The famed law of gravitation will not avail, though we are told that we have 15 pounds of atmospheric pressure, or atmosphere pressing, on every square inch of our bodies. But this does not appear to be particularly logical, for there are many athletes who can leap nearly their own height and run a mile race in less than 5 minutes, or a fly or an insect that is to take off, which they could not possibly do if they was handed. So, sir, your assertion respecting the revolution of the world round the sun, or as illustrated by the pail of water, is basically utterly worthless, and you will never convince any thinking or free-thinking man. It is, as the late Mr. Carpenter said, of another astronomical theory, an outrage upon human understanding and credibility. So, guys, gravity, being a force of nature that has never been scientifically proven, is still a very much mystical force that is a fact. And I would love to know where this information of fact comes from. Now, Newton's supposed law of gravitation was lost in the moon because Newton found that the moon's pedigree ought to require 18 years to perform its revolution in the heavens, while observations showed that the revolution was performed in one half of this period. He exhausted all his skill and power to overcome the difficulty, but died, leaving the problem unsolved. And his successor, Clarion, who finally abandoned the law of gravitation as being incapable of explanation. And in his article, Nature and Law, which appeared in the Modern Review of October 1890, Professor W.B. Carpenter writes as follows: "We have no proof, and in nature of things can never get one, of the assumption of the attractive force exerted by the earth or by any other bodies of the solar system upon any other bodies at a distance." Newton himself strongly felt that the impossibility of rationally accounting for action at a distance, though an intervening vacuum, was the weak point of his system. All that we can be said to know is that which we learn from our own experience. Now, in regards to the sun's attraction for the earth and the planets, we have no certain experiments at all. Unless we could be transported to the sun's surface, we have no means of experimentally comparing solar gravity with terrestrial gravity, and if we could ascertain this, we should be no nearer the determination of the sun's attraction for bodies at a distance. So, the truth is, no astronomer on Earth, guys, nor anybody else for that matter, knows one single fact respecting gravitation, which is an unknown and unknowable quantity. And the sooner it is committed to the grave by oblivion, the more scope will be given for the advancement of true science. Any object which is heavier than the air and which is unsupported has a natural tendency to fall by its own weight. Newton's famous apple at Woolsthorpe, or any other apple, guys, when ripe, loses hold of its stalk and, being heavier than the air, simply drops as a matter of necessity to the ground, totally irrespective of any attraction of the earth. For if such attraction actually existed, why does not the earth attract the rising smoke when it is nearly so heavy as the apple? The answer is simple: because the smoke is lighter than the air and therefore does not fall but ascends. Gravitation is only a subterfuge employed by Newton in his attempt to prove the earth revolves around the sun, and the quicker it is regulated to the tomb of the Capulets, the better it will be for all classes of society. He draped his idol, the tawdry tinsel of false science, knowing well how to beguile the thoughtlessness multitude, for which a little alteration of Byron's famous lines is still true, that mortals like moths are often caught by glare, and folly wins success where suffice might despair. Gravitation, guys, is a clever illustration of the art of hocus pocus, heads I win, tails you lose. Newton won his fame, and the people lost their senses. And to throw another point to you guys, if gravitation in the vast body of our astronomer's sun was really a reality, then why does it not actually attract, or even as it might be expected to, absorb such a light body as a comet when it comes so near it, instead of letting its long gossamer tail depart unscathed? To obey the attraction of the sun, yet he appears to have the singular power of driving the comet's tail away from him. For however rapidly the comet may be rushing around the sun, and however long the tail may be, it is almost always found to stream in an opposite direction from the sun. Gravity is a myth, guys. A very long, complicated explanation for the heliocentric, planetary, globular, fake, alien-filled system that we seem to be in today. Thanks for watching this upload. Hit that subscribe if you're new. Have a great day, guys, and try and spread that flat earth truth as much as you can. Peace and good luck to you all.